So much of what happens in life is out of our control, and the more stress, the more we tend to pull into ourselves and struggle. It's like there's a part of our brain that takes over and makes it worse. And it becomes so easy to forget all the good, what we do that's good, and how much others really appreciate us. Now, I appreciate you, and we're stressed and want answers for what to do about it. I hope this helps. Unwanted thoughts and emotions can show up at any time. And when they do, we tend to get caught up with them and struggle with them. Do you ever notice that no matter what you do, as hard as you try, and even if you seem to be able to control them for a bit, they come back, like a boomerang or a beach ball pushed under the water? This natural tendency to try to control unwanted thoughts and emotions is normal, even though it's not always effective, and sometimes it can be harmful. This struggle often blocks us from living our values in the moment. The human problem-solving brain has been developing since the Stone Age, and contrary to what we've all been taught, we now know its default setting is not happy. Rather, it's how not to get killed. Unwanted thoughts and emotions were paired with real dangers like wolves and persisted until the problem was resolved. But the problem wasn't the thought wolf showing up. The problem was the actual wolf showing up. The problem wasn't intense anxiety sensations showing up. The problem was the actual wolf showing up. These thoughts and emotions persisted until the object of the threat was gone. And in that case, this persistence of unwanted thoughts and emotions was useful for survival. But that's not exactly what's happening with all our unwanted thoughts and emotions. It took tons of research in the fields of language and problem solving to finally discover that, as great as this part of our brain is for some things, like wolves, the problem-solving brain's ability to imagine is actually the problem when it comes to so many of our unwanted thoughts and feelings. It turns out to be a mislabeling issue. The problem-solving brain's a machine. Its primary function is to look for and try to solve problems. It does this automatically. We can't really stop it. Notice what happens when I say, Mary had a little, or 14 divided by 7 equals. It's compelled to solve the problem. And once it labels something as a problem, it keeps it in awareness until it's solved, or until a more pressing problem arises, or it's been distracted. But then it returns to the unfinished problem. The simple issue isn't that it does this. We can't control that. The issue is, if there's not a wolf actually present, the problem-solving brain tends to believe that the emergence of the unwanted thought or emotion is the problem, even though thoughts and emotions themselves can't actually harm us. So naturally then, it tries to eliminate or control the emergence of these. But since there's nowhere for them to go, they keep returning. I can't outrun my mind or my history. And it's not even the anxiety showing up. It's the anxiety about the anxiety, or the sadness about the anger. It's that I couldn't keep it from showing up in the first place. It's the struggle, out of control, that becomes the problem. Research very clearly tells us now we can't eliminate thoughts or unknow what is already known, but we can pair the thoughts with new perspectives. Research also tells us there's a reason that humans are built to have strong negative emotions. They tell us what we care about, but don't have in the moment. I lost my father. I care about that. I have sadness. So the problem isn't that unwanted thoughts and emotions show up out of my control. The problem is trying to control them and eliminate them, which guarantees that they'll return. So when we struggle with this, The struggle happens in the now moment, the only time we have. And there's a cost to the struggle. It distracts and blocks me from the one thing I can actually control, acting on what I care about in the moment. So there are two choices we have when unwanted thoughts and emotions show up. Assuming, of course, that there's no actual wolf to deal with. Choice 1. Continue to struggle and try to control or eliminate the unwanted at all costs. Or, choice 2. Try a new strategy to teach the brain that it can have any thought or emotion in the moment at any time. The only way to do that is to practice, purposefully having the unwanted and not avoiding it. It's like deciding to repeatedly get on the elevator if you have a fear of elevators until your brain realizes, I guess it isn't a problem because you keep doing it on purpose. Like deciding to face that thing that has been chasing you in your nightmare all these years, and then finally seeing it could never hurt you. There are a variety of ways to develop this skill. All have some common ingredients. Number 1, see that trying to control thoughts and feelings is the problem. Number 2, be willing to try a different strategy until you master it, like playing a new game. Number 3, allow it to be there and see it for what it actually is. It's actually a thought or a feeling. Number 4, be willing to have them until you're not struggling with them in the moment. And number 5, it's seeing, ultimately, that it's really about attending in the now moment. It's like driving through the fog, carefully, attentively, because you really have to get there. The reason this works is, this is the quickest way to stop the struggle and return to what's important in the moment without avoidance and making it worse. And this trains your brain with a new strategy, and that leads to confidence. Confidence that you can handle it when it happens again. In the exercise to follow, here's a few things to expect. First, you'll be instructed to study the unwanted thoughts and emotions purposefully, like a curious scientist. Then you'll be asked to notice other things the brain does automatically that are not threatening, like noticing what you can see, hear, touch, and feel. You see, by pairing all these together without avoidance, your brain begins to see the thoughts and emotions aren't a threat, but rather sees them the same as all the other senses that come and go. Remember, the goal is not to become relaxed or to try to control or fix or eliminate the thoughts or the emotions. It's to see that you can have them. Thoughts may appear and seem distracting throughout the exercise. That's normal. Not even Zen masters can stop them. That is the point of the exercise. Notice them, let them go on their way, shift your attention back to the task at hand. Allow them to float around the room, in a sense. And lastly, you'll notice that there's another wise part of your brain, the part that can observe all of this as it happens in the moment. You see, observing is the solution. Lean into the discomfort. Drive through the fog.